Right. So you know how much I love diving into philosophy?
Oh, yeah.
And you sent over this
Mm.
this blog post,
Yeah.
Reimagining Stoicism Colors by Allison Moore. And I gotta say,
Okay.
this is a cool take on Stoicism.
Right?
Uh, probably like most of our listeners are familiar with Stoicism.
Yeah.
It's this whole idea of, virtue and reason and living in harmony with nature.
Right.
But Allison thinks that all the typical imagery we think of,
Yeah.
like Roman soldiers and marble statues, it's too rigid
Okay.
and maybe even like a little hyper masculine, and she
Yep.
uses color to like make it more inclusive. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is cool.
I love that approach because color, I feel like, carries so much emotional weight.
Right.
Yeah, it can really shift how we perceive an entire philosophy.
Exactly. So let's jump into her first color pairing.
Okay.
She talks about the traditional red of Stoicism
Yeah.
and how she wants to shift that to like a pastel pink. So she says red, it feels like Mars, the god of war.
Hmm.
But then she asks, what if we soften that red into a pastel pink?
Mm.
What do you make of that shift?
Well, I think Allison is tapping into something important here.
Okay.
The traditional red might suggest that Stoicism is all about brute force,
Right.
just powering through any obstacle.
Yeah.
But by suggesting pink, she's
Yeah.
highlighting the strength and compassion. It's a different kind of power,
Right.
one that requires understanding and empathy.
Interesting.
And that, to me, is a much more powerful form of strength,
I see what you mean.
especially in today's world.
Yeah. It really makes you think about like
Mhm.
those classic Stoic figures, but in a new light.
Exactly.
So instead of a warrior facing down an enemy,
Yeah.
maybe it's more like a community leader mediating a conflict.
That's a great example, and that really reframes what it means to,
Totally.
live in accordance with nature.
Yes.
It's not just about enduring hardship.
Right.
It's about using your reason to understand and connect with others,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even guide them through difficulty.
That's a really interesting take on pink.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving, the blog post compares the traditional black,
Okay.
which often represents, a Stoic's calmness,
Mm-hmm.
to lavender.
Oh,
She says black can be a bit forbidding,
yeah.
whereas lavender is peaceful,
Right?
but inviting,
Oh, okay.
like the stillness at dusk or a field of flowers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that swap?
Well, I can see black representing the end result,
Right.
that unshakable calm,
Oh.
but it doesn't really tell us how to get there.
Yeah.
But lavender, though, suggests the process of finding that peace. It
Yeah.
might be through meditation or spending time in nature
Yeah.
or simply choosing calmer responses to stress.
So it's a softer kind of strength, maybe.
Yeah.
Not suppressing all emotion,
Right.
but cultivating peace from within.
Precisely. And think about how this applies to our own lives.
Mhm.
We don't have to be unfeeling statues to be stoic.
Yeah,
It's about finding that inner balance.
I like that. Okay, next up is white,
All right.
which usually stands for reason and purity,
Okay.
versus light blue.
Hmm.
The author says white can feel rigid,
I can see that.
while light blue is more like open skies and gentle waters.
Mm-hmm.
It's about adaptable wisdom,
Okay.
going with the flow.
Interesting.
What do you think?
Well, this one brings up a really interesting tension within Stoicism.
Okay.
You have this emphasis on unyielding principles,
Mm-hmm.
but also the need to apply them intelligently
Right.
to real life situations.
Yes.
And light blue really captures that duality.
Yeah, like a sailor navigating a storm. They
Exactly.
have to stick to their knowledge of the sea,
Right.
but also adapt to the changing winds.
And I think that's a valuable lesson for all of us,
Well-
whether we're formally practicing Stoicism or not,
Mm-hmm.
because life throws us curveballs. And rigidly clinging to one approach might not always be the wisest choice.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to be adaptable.
Yeah, you got to go with the flow sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really cool how these color shifts are
Uh-huh.
giving us this much more nuanced view
Mm-hmm.
of Stoicism.
Totally.
It's not just about toughness.
Right.
It's about cultivating these really rich inner qualities.
Okay, her next color pairing really builds on that idea.
Okay.
We're moving from the traditional white,
Yeah.
symbolizing purity,
Yeah.
to a soft green.
Mhm.
The blog post says green represents growth,
Okay.
harmony, and living in accordance with nature.
Mhm.
And it's not just about our own personal growth,
Yeah.
but also understanding our role within the world
Mhm.
and helping others to grow too.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think the green speaks to a really crucial aspect of Stoicism,
Okay.
that often gets overlooked. It's
Yeah.
not about isolating yourself
Mm-hmm.
and becoming this like perfectly self-sufficient individual. It's about understanding that we're part of a larger system,
I see.
a community, and even the natural world.
Okay.
And our actions have an impact on that system.
So maybe it's less about like
Yeah,
conquering nature and more about finding our place within it?
exactly.
Yeah.
And supporting its growth,
Okay.
just as we support the growth of the people around us.
Right.
It makes me think of like mentorship programs,
Uh-huh.
community gardens, things like that.
Okay, so we've got pink for compassion,
Yeah.
lavender for serenity, light blue for adaptability,
Mm-hmm.
and now green for growth and connection.
Yes.
It's really interesting how each color adds another layer
Right.
to our understanding of Stoicism.
It's like we're building a more complete picture, moving away from that stereotype of the emotionless Stoic
Right.
and seeing the philosophy's full potential.
And speaking of stereotypes,
Okay.
this next color pairing really challenges the idea
Mm-hmm.
that Stoics are all about suppressing their emotions. We're talking about the stark black and white,
Right.
often associated with Stoicism,
Yeah.
versus a warm peach.
Mm.
The blog post says black and white can feel cold,
Okay.
while peach is inviting, warm,
Here.
human.
Yeah.
What do you think about that choice?
It's a powerful shift
Okay.
because while black and white might represent clarity and reason,
Yeah.
they don't really leave room for vulnerability or warmth.
Interesting.
And those are essential components of a fulfilling life,
I agree.
even for a Stoic.
Right. It's not about becoming some kind of unfeeling robot.
Exactly.
It's about using reason to cultivate virtue.
Right.
And virtue includes things like kindness, compassion, humility.
And peach really embodies that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's the color of gentle support,
Mm-hmm.
understanding, offering a safe space for others to be themselves.
Okay, so we've got pink, lavender, light blue, green,
Yeah.
and now peach.
Okay.
This new palette is definitely painting a much more inviting picture
Right.
of Stoicism.
It's making it feel more attainable.
Like something we can actually strive for in our daily lives
Yeah.
without having to like shut off our emotions or become hermits.
All right. On to our last color pairing.
I don't know.
The blog post compares the traditional gold of Stoicism,
Mm.
which often symbolizes victory,
Yeah.
with a softer gold.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that distinction?
The traditional gold to me represents those outward markers of success.
Okay.
The trophies, the accolades.
Right.
But the softer gold that Allison describes
Yeah.
is more about inner strength.
Interesting.
It's a quiet resilience that doesn't need to be broadcast to the world.
I like that. It's like the traditional gold is the warrior coming home with spoils of war,
Right.
while the soft gold is the light that shines from within,
Yes.
even when you're going through difficult times.
Exactly. It's not about seeking validation from others.
Right.
It's about knowing your own worth and living in accordance with your values.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of resilience can be incredibly powerful.
It's a really interesting way to think about Stoicism.
And especially in our modern world where there's so much emphasis
Right.
on external achievement.
Exactly.
Maybe true strength comes from that inner light,
Yeah.
that ability to stay grounded and true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what challenges you face.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really powerful point.
Yeah.
You know, we often get caught up in striving for that external validation.
Right.
But true Stoicism, as Allison is pointing out through this soft gold imagery, seems to be about cultivating that inner strength,
Totally.
that unshakable sense of self.
It really makes you rethink what it means to be successful.
Right.
Maybe it's not about the outward achievements,
Yeah.
but more about how we navigate like the ups and downs of life
Exactly.
while staying true to like our values.
And that resonates so much with the Stoic idea of
Yeah.
focusing on what's in our control.
Mm-hmm.
We can't always control those external outcomes,
Right.
but we can control our responses,
Yep.
our attitudes, and ultimately our own inner strength.
Okay, so we've gone through this whole journey
Yeah.
through Allison's entire like
I know, it's amazing.
reimagined color palette.
It's so cool.
Pink for compassion, lavender for serenity,
Mm-hmm.
light blue for adaptability,
Yeah.
green for growth and connection,
Uh,
peach for warmth and humanity, and
Right.
finally, soft gold for inner resilience.
it is a really thought-provoking way to look at Stoicism.
It is.
Like more than I expected going into this.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's one more point in the blog post I want
Okay.
to touch on.
Yeah.
Allison writes, this isn't a softer version of Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more inclusive one.
Right.
It's a Stoicism that invites everyone in,
Yeah.
that says strength comes in many forms.
Mm.
What do you think about that statement?
I think it's a brilliant point.
Okay.
You know, for too long,
Yeah.
Stoicism has been seen as this rigid,
Right.
almost austere philosophy,
Yeah.
primarily for men. But by reframing it through these softer, more
Yeah.
diverse colors,
Yeah.
Allison is opening it up to a much wider audience.
It's like she's saying, hey, you don't have to fit this
Yeah.
stereotypical image of a Stoic to benefit from these principles.
Exactly.
You know, whether you're a caregiver, an artist, an activist,
And,
a student, these ideas can help you navigate life's challenges
yeah,
with more grace and resilience.
absolutely. And I think that's so important, especially in today's world,
For sure.
where we're constantly bombarded with messages
Okay.
about what it means to be strong or successful.
Totally.
Stoicism reimagined in this way offers a different path, one that values inner strength, compassion, and connection
Yeah.
over external achievements.
All right, so we've really unpacked a lot
We have.
in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored this really unique perspective on Stoicism thanks to Allison's blog post.
So interesting.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
All right.
Okay, inspired by all this talk about color,
Yeah.
if you were to add one more color
Mm.
to Allison's reimagined Stoic palette,
Okay.
what would be and why?
Oh.
What shade would represent a quality or principle you feel is missing, or could further enhance our understanding
Right.
of Stoicism for the 21st century?
That's a fantastic question to ponder. It
Yeah.
really encourages us to take ownership of these ideas
Totally.
and make them our own. And it reminds me that philosophy is a living, breathing thing. It's not just about memorizing ancient texts. It's
Yeah.
about engaging with these ideas,
Yeah.
making them relevant to our own lives,
Right.
and maybe even adding our own brushstrokes.
I love that.
The canvas.
That's such a good analogy.
Right.
It's like we're all artists co-creating this evolving understanding
Exactly.
of what it means to live a good life.
And who knows, maybe your color edition will inspire someone else to rethink Stoicism in a whole new way.
Thanks for joining us on this colorful journey into Stoicism.
It was a pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
Keep those colors flowing.
And until next time, may you find wisdom and tranquility
Yes.
in whatever shades life throws your way.